visualization is really the key to meditation, of building in substance into ourselves that wasn't there before and becoming that. As they call it, the Buddha in the heart meditation is doing just that, building in the qualities of a great being like the Buddha, and eventually becoming those qualities. Cherry says the energies were very strong today, and it was a powerful meditation. Yes, I believe it was. And the approach to the meditation on the 1 or 2 days before is always the most powerful. And of course, if you can get up at the right hour, the 1 hour before the meditation is the most powerful time during that 5-day total meditation window. 2.5 days approaching, 2.5 days afterwards, after the exact time. Rachel says she hasn't done this before, but saw a pinpoint of blue light. Any idea what that might mean? Well, I think it's probably to do with the second ray, love, wisdom, and the energy of the Christ. The second ray is the indigo blue ray. There are many different symbols we can receive in meditation, not unlike the symbols we receive in dreams, and it can take some skill to interpret those symbols. And everyone has their own specific set of symbols due to their own life experience and what the soul can use in their minds. Anyway, so to meditate means to reflect, ponder, or contemplate. As we will see later on, there is different stages of meditation, of which contemplation is but one stage. Why meditate? Desire to relax and to be calm is one of the main motives for most people. Of course, to know oneself, to know one's mind, to resolve tensions on all 3 levels of the personality, especially the emotional level for most people. Just ask you to mute your video if you have your video on, thanks. It's a bit distracting. And also to investigate the mystery of the secret teachings, to learn something new, and to receive soul impression for personality integration. Different aspects of the personality can be focused upon to meet different needs. I mean, we do that when we do the alignment at the beginning of the meditation. We do only a short alignment in this meditation, this group meditation, but your personal alignment, you may take 5 minutes to do that by slowly sounding the Om and visualizing light pouring through the etheric body. You might want to visualize violet or white color going through the etheric body, cleansing it and purifying it. You may want to visualize on the second Om the astral body or the emotional body and the indigo blue light pouring through that. And likewise with the mental body. In fact, when we sound the 3 Oms, we start with the mental and work our way down to the physical. Usually white is a good color for the mental, but you may get intuitive colors that you think are appropriate for you. But the whole aim is to really calm and settle those bodies and energize them. And once they are all energized and aligning with each other, then the personality is relatively aligned and integrated and ready to receive soul impressions. There are many, many different types of meditations. There are set meditations for particular Buddhist groups or Vedanta groups or Hindu groups and so forth, particular mantras. And many people ask me, what one should I use? I just tell them to jump in at the deep end, start sitting, closing your eyes for 5 minutes and watch your mind and wrestle with your monkey mind to get past mind chatter and into a space of meditation. It doesn't matter what form of meditation you use, you're always going to be finding those hurdles or obstacles to work through. Anyway, and as I was saying before, I think, or maybe it was last night, meditation is part of the triangle of service, meditation, and study. And service is like the first aspect or the first ray. That is one of the primary factors, the service to your fellow humanity through whatever chosen work that you're doing. Meditation is far more along the second aspect, second ray, in terms of finding that heart space, of course, of synchronizing the mind with the heart. And study is the third aspect, study of the esoteric teachings we're talking about here. Because these three go together very closely. You can't really study the esoteric teachings unless you are a regular meditator. Otherwise, it's just going to be a concrete mind parroting of facts. Meditation allows you to reflect and to contemplate and to sit with it, chew on it, as we say, chew the cud. And of course, both of those points, study and meditation, are impractical unless you apply what you've learned in everyday service. That's where the rubber hits the road, as they say, where it really becomes practical. Gabriel says, in the distribution part of the meditation, you mentioned Tokyo instead of London first. What is the reason for this? Oh, I just thought I'd mix it up a bit. Part of the reason is, in fact, it's a kind of linear reason, because I could have started at New York and worked to London, to Geneva, to Darjeeling, to Tokyo, but I went in the reverse direction. This meditation was taken from the Lucis Trust, London, and they always start with London. So it doesn't really matter, because you can visualize all 5 centers at once in your meditation and the energy pouring through them. You don't have to particularly focus on any one center as such. Of course, we have the all-seeing eye in the triangle, which is essentially the Ajna center. We can look at these 3 points of the triangle as the crown chakra, the heart chakra, and the throat chakra, or Shambhala, hierarchy, humanity. And this center eye here can be seen as the new group of world service, the Ajna center of Sanakamara, in fact, we're told. Sanakamara sees the world through the new group of world service. Meditation builds in a rhythm into life. Any one-pointed activity can be considered meditation, such as knitting, sewing, embroidery, gardening, fishing. These are all contemplative activities where the body is active to a certain degree and the concentration is there, but the mind is free to contemplate, to reflect. Racing cars, cleaning the bathtub. Some people have had their most transcendent experiences. Chasing business. These are all one-pointed activities. And of course, business is a legitimate spiritual path as anything else, of course, with right motive. Sitting for meditation, we consciously cleanse the vehicles, as I was saying before, through visualization. Holding the mind steady in the light, sending specific energy to bodies, people, or the planet. There are so many different forms of meditation. And every day that you meditate, if you are a daily meditator, it's like a blank canvas that you have before you to create upon. So to meditate connects the body-centered brain consciousness to the soul via the medium of the mind or the outer karana, the rainbow bridge. We will have a class later on the outer karana in this course, or have we had it already? No, I don't think we have. So the meditative mind looks at itself from a detached viewpoint. It sees the vehicles or bodies as aligned and harmonious. We work as if we may not be in alignment as such, but we can certainly work as if we are in alignment. You might have come from a particularly difficult argument with someone sort of 10 minutes before we sat for meditation. We may spend the first 10 minutes of the meditation still clearing that disharmony within the personality vehicles. So the brain, of course, is the instrument of the mental body, and it allows the eye of the soul to see the world. The mental body is the software, the brain is the hardware. So we have this massive meditation in this photo here. I think it's in Thailand or somewhere like that. Extraordinary. I think there's over 1,000 meditators. Of course, there are massive meditations in other parts of the world as well. So meditation is the realization of unification through conscious experience, not just intellectual practice. And meditation is not just emptying the mind and staying in a vacuous negative state, nor is it having fantastic astral experiences and not being able to relate them. I call this astral tripping. I remember various groups I've been part of over the years. When I first started joining esoteric groups in Australia, the meditation sharing afterwards, so people would go into long, elaborate descriptions for 10 minutes. And these were more sort of self-indulgent sort of astral impressions. But of course, that was their experience too. And in a sense, it's all good in terms of understanding other people's experiences and your own. But essentially, when we meditate, we're using the imagination, which is sourced in the astral body, and we tap into the aspiration of the astral body. But we blend that with the mental body that is organizing thought and directing thought. So this is the union of the masculine and the feminine, the astral and the physical body. The mental body. So I said meditation, study and service, a trinity geared for understanding universal truths. Of course, the triangle is the symbol of the soul, just as the square is a symbol of the personality. And hence any triangle or triplicities can be related to many other triplicities. As I said at the beginning of this course, they form the foundation, the triplicities and the so-called septenaries, the sevenfold constitution. So we have 6 stages of meditation: aspiration, concentration, meditation, contemplation, intuition, and illumination. And the Tibetan in esoteric astrology, I think, talks about these stages being ruled by different zodiac signs, a sequence of zodiac signs, in fact. Concentration is Leo, meditation is Virgo, contemplation is Libra, intuition is Scorpio, and illumination is Sagittarius. I think those last 2 may be reversed, in fact. I'll have to check that. But that's roughly a sequence. Not sure where aspiration is. Could be Cancer. But anyway. Through aspiration, we seek and aspire to learn any new skill and discipline. We aspire higher. It's a quality of the emotional body. It's a higher expression of the emotional body. Desire is of the emotional body or the astral body is transformed into aspiration. We aspire to reach higher. Of course, we look at the spires on churches and religious buildings, which I think are a great symbol of aspiration, of reaching up towards the heavens. Concentration, we draw the mind into focused attention, quietening the chattering monkey mind that flits back and forth from past to present to future. We try and stay in the present. We try and be here now. Or the journey to nowhere, as they say, now here. And of course, being in the heart is being present, being in the present. Being in the future is being more in the head, and going into the past is more into the lower centers, particularly the solar plexus. So that center chakra, of course, is the ideal. Now, concentration is the most difficult stage of meditation to learn because we all have to deal with the chattering monkey mind, and we particularly live in a very monkey mind culture these days. There are so many distractions through various media and so forth. Our attention is being grabbed by this, that, and every other thing. And it's almost getting to the point where whole generations are scrambling their brains, having their brains scrambled through excessive media consumption. So we have to really use a lot of willpower and discipline to separate our consumption of that material and create a haven, to retreat to. The ashram itself is the symbol of that inner haven, the ashram being the inner group of souls that you're a part of, according to your ray, your soul ray, and so forth. So we have this racing, distracted mind. This is the first hurdle in meditation. We wander into fantasy, and it's discouraging. And quite often people give up in futility because they can't overcome the racing mind, the distracted mind, and they get all enthusiastic to meditate. And after a couple of weeks, even a couple of days sometimes, or a couple of months, they discontinue, because one of the main reasons for this is that the personality is resistant. It has its own habits and behaviors that it's been has had for years or lifetimes. And so any new change, any new frequency coming in is going to cause dissonance, conflict, and the point of least resistance is to stay where you are and not go forward. So that's one of the main reasons that people don't give up meditation. So we have to constantly reel in the mind, bring it back to center, and hold the mind steady in the light. I love that phrase, hold the mind steady in the light. You know, you may be sitting there for 15 minutes and then suddenly, bing, you go, oh, I've been astral tripping for the last 10 minutes. I've been thinking about what I've been doing tomorrow, or what I did yesterday, or what I have to do in a couple of hours' time. I'm not here now at all. I'm in my lower mind, my concrete mind, being distracted. And so you bring the mind back to center, you hold it steady in the light, and you continue with the visualization process. Or you try and enter the realm of non-thinking. So before I said on the previous page, meditation is not just emptying the mind and staying in a vacuous negative state. A lot of people will sit in a perfect lotus position, physically speaking, and do just that, just enter into a vacuous state. Meditation is both a passive and active process where we we organize and discipline the mind, and then we open it up to inspiration and reception to intuition. Intuition, of course, being beyond the mind. Personality is very reluctant to go through this discipline. It has a vested interest in maintaining the status quo and rebels against change. And the instability of change brings out old hidden fears. And so the mind scuttles back to old habits, routines, and rituals. We all have them to one degree or another in our daily lives. So feeling uncomfortable is a temporary stage to progress on the path. And we have to make repeated, consistent efforts that allow the personality laziness to be overcome. When we first aspire to meditate, we get really keen on it, we can go overboard, do too much meditation, and actually overstimulate ourselves as a result. Stimulation that we're not ready for because our centers are not prepared properly. So the steady wins the race, as they say, in terms of meditation. I know myself, if I've not meditated for a week, which happens regularly, I guess, depending on what I'm doing or where I'm traveling to, then it's a much bigger effort to meditate when you do start meditating again. So keeping up the regular daily practice is the key. In the morning, first thing, before anything happens, to have that space for yourself. And last thing in the evening, just in terms of a short reflection, a calming, and before you go to sleep. That's the ideal. Some people do a midday meditation as well, the 12 o'clock reflection, just as a kind of another interval. Joe Walks says, as I recall from esoteric astrology, aspiration is the turning point in Sagittarius on the mutable cross, and desire is transmuted into aspiration. I desire to aspire, I aspire. Yeah, I think that's right, Joe. So illumination, Scorpio, aspiration, Sagittarius. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm talking about aspiration as the first step. Yes. So there are 7 stages that the Tibetan gives for concentration. He suggests an object to focus upon, and that's broken up into 4 different stages. It can be all 4 different options. External image, a picture, a tree, a flower, anything. An internal image that you've created yourself, from some idealistic sort of vision. A quality or a virtue, such as love or patience, or a mental concept or thought form. Second stage, withdrawal of the mind consciousness from the periphery of the body. The 5 senses are stilled. The directing of consciousness inward by withdrawal of senses from physical events and feelings. Not an easy one, especially when it comes to sound, or hearing, which is one of the 5 senses. And this is mentioned in Letters on Occult Meditation, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I think he says something to the effect that sound is one of the last ones to be conquered in terms of concentration. We all ideally like to have a quiet environment in which to meditate, but you might have a plane flying over, like there's one flying over me right now. I don't know whether you can hear that or not. Or you may have the neighbor's dog starts barking as soon as you sit down to meditate. That's a classic Murphy's Law situation, and a host of other things. Of course, the kids come in and interrupt you. That's why it's important to do the meditation as early as possible in the day when there's not so much activity around, Some of us get up at 4 or 5 o'clock, not necessarily voluntarily, but maybe our souls are forcing us to do that, like the monk in a monastery. And where there's that ample quiet space to meditate for as long as you like. And of course, I want to mention here too, it's all about quality, not quantity. It wouldn't be advisable to, for instance, to sit for an hour or 2 hours meditating, although of course some experienced meditators can. I think it's just like half an hour is quite sufficient because there was a lot of time when you actually go into that half-hour period. You realize there's a lot of time within that greater time span. Jem says, you say that visualization is an important part of the meditation process. What happens if one has no fourth ray and cannot visualize? Well, it doesn't necessarily follow that if you don't have fourth ray, you can't visualize. They say that the Tibetan says in the blue books that first ray types find it difficult to visualize. And that is true, I think. Is it okay to be okay with only a sense of the image, spontaneous imagery? Is different. I take heart from what DK says about having a rubbish body for meditation, but keep going anyway. Yeah, well, indeed, it's all about intent. That's what he says. He says it's even if you can't visualize, the thought form or the intention is the main thing. And if you keep persisting at that, the visualization will come. You'll get images that will just drop into your brain out of nowhere. You think, where did that come from? That's the intuition bringing you the appropriate imagery to help you visualize. Point C, centering, the third stage of concentration, steadying of consciousness of the third eye. The third eye synthesizes the lower centers. The third eye, of course, is in the region of the forehead, but it's separate from the Ajna center. People get these two mixed up. So the third eye is actually a function related to the pineal gland and the pituitary gland and the two eyes. Third eye synthesizes the lower centers being the base chakra, the sacral center, and the solar plexus. The fourth stage, paying close attention to the object of focus, not wavering from that. The fifth stage, the visualization of that object, the imaginative perception about it, the logical reasoning about it. This is a very important stage. Sixth stage, extension of mental concepts specific to universal. These all take a fair bit of pondering when you read this in the Tibetan, so we can't really spend too much time exploring all these stages, but to let you know that they exist. We move away from a self-centered perspective. This is a key factor because many people start meditation for their personal growth, as we call it. But ultimately, we realize that meditation is service in terms of how we improve ourselves in relation to the greater group process. Seventh stage, attempt to reach behind the form created, that which is responsible for producing the form or the object that we're focusing on. In all stages of concentration, we move from the external of the form to the underlying purpose or reason. So, there's a bit to take in there. So we're talking about the second stage of meditation, concentration, which is ruled over by Leo. And the reason for that is that Leo has this capacity ruled by the sun, of course. So like the sun shines through a magnifying glass and burns anything in its path, so there is the concentration of Leo. And perhaps you can even imagine that, visualize that when you are concentrating, to visualize the sun burning away the obstacles or the chattering, the lower mind chattering away, that kind of thing. So you notice that these symbols here in these pictures are very Libran. Libra represents the contemplation stage of meditation, but it's about a balance, of course, isn't it? Balancing the pairs of opposites on the emotional plane and upon the mental plane, and of course the etheric physical to a degree. And some people on that score, some people do exercises before meditation, a little bit of yoga, doesn't hurt, a bit of breathing, pranic breathing, but generally those things are not necessary. I know myself, when I used to do hatha yoga before meditation, I found that it was better to do it after the meditation. And DK does say, as I'll explain later on, that Raja Yoga, the kingly science of meditation, is the only yoga to really concentrate on for this fifth root race. Quite an astonishing statement in many ways, but we'll come back to that point later. So we have this incongruous balance here of the feather and the rock, another interesting symbol. So meditation, an extension of concentration. The only distinction is time. And actually time is in a sense non-existent. If we're going into really deep meditation, we may snap out of it 20 minutes later and feel like we've been gone for hours. Just like when we have a dream that we wake up from or we write down, and it might take us 10 minutes to write the whole thing down, but it may have only occurred in a few seconds of our so-called TikTok or linear time. So meditation helps us to detach from the warring aspects of the personality. It helps achieve orientation to the higher self or soul. And let's face it, we all have warring aspects of our personality. The daily kurukshetra that we enter into and attempt to resolve in one way or another in terms of ourselves being present and in the now in every second of the day if we can, ideally, of course. So we don't focus mentally, emotionally on the lower centers. Some schools of meditation might do that. The aim of meditation is to move the consciousness to the head, heart, or throat. The heart or the throat is synthesized by the Ajna center of the brow chakra. The safest place to focus is in the heart or the head. At least that's my preference. The throat can be overstimulating in terms of overstimulating the mind, of course. Some people, depending on their ray type, if they're more a first ray type, then the head might be their point of least resistance to focus through. If they're more a second ray type, the heart might be their thing. But you can mix it up too. In different meditations, you can focus on one or the other and note the results. It's all about experimenting and experiencing and learning accordingly. Claudia says, what tradition of Buddhism did DK practice? I heard somewhere it was the Bon tradition. No, it wasn't. The Bon, of course, are a very shamanistic tradition, very Atlantean in many ways, that was associated with Tibet Buddhism. But there's another name that I'm thinking of that is more closely aligned with. I just can't recall it right now. I know that there was a student of DK that I met once who did a whole dissertation on this particular type of Buddhism, and it someone here might know it. If you do, just write it in the chat for us, thanks. But I can't recall it right now. I guess Vajrayana Buddhism might be one of the closest, but it's not the one I'm thinking of. Vajrayana is really the higher vehicle, as it's called, where the visualization is employed in creating the Buddha and the heart meditation, for instance. Now, speaking of meditations, it's exactly 5 o'clock on the time zone in Europe here, which is the time for the 5 o'clock reflection. And I'm going to just say it just for interest's sake, and as well as for service. And that's something that also can be another interlude in your day if you wish to recite it, to connect back with the group that you're part of. And it goes like this. May the power of the one life pour through the group of all true servers. May the love of the one soul characterize the lives of all who seek to aid the great ones. May we fulfill our part in the one work through self-forgetfulness, harmlessness, and right speech. Om. I find it's a very good interlude at the end of the day and bridges to the evening period. So, where were we? We're still on the meditation stage 3. And stage 4 is contemplation. Meditation, by the way, is ruled by Virgo, interestingly enough, ruled by Mercury, the planet of lower mind, higher mind, and intuition, in fact. Mercury ruling Virgo has a lot to do with mental discrimination, viveka as it's called. So meditation stage ruled by Virgo is quite appropriate, I think. Also, the fourth ray is associated with Mercury and with Virgo because the moon, co-ruler of the fourth ray, is the esoteric ruler of Virgo. The moon veiling a hidden planet, of course, as we know. So, all right, contemplation, the Libera stage, contemplate or temple. The mind loses the concept of self and becomes absorbed in the object. Again, these things of fishing, gardening, knitting, these contemplation activities. But Libera is a sign that has Saturn as the hierarchical ruler, and in fact is exalted in Libera. And Saturn is rules the throat chakra, the seat of the mental body. And Saturn is the factor that helps us to create geometrical thought forms upon the mental plane and to contact other people's geometrical thought forms they've created, or in fact thought forms created by the masters. So, but contemplation and reflection is the key here for this stage of meditation. So, intuition, the fifth stage, faculty of perception beyond the ordinary senses. Intuition being the opposite or the key to counter illusion. As a mentally polarized fifth root race, we are really subject to illusion increasingly, but we're still mainly suffering from glamour, which is an astral quality. The intuitive reaction to truth when the mind is quiet, bridging to buddhi, I like to call that. So intuition certainly corresponds to Scorpio because once the emotional battle has been won in Scorpio, then the astral body is purged and purified sufficiently to allow it to be an accurate reflector of energy coming from the Buddhic plane or the intuitive plane. And of course also it's instructive with Venus in Scorpio is where the mind is bypassed and the intuition is accessed, or the symbolism of Venus in Scorpio anyway. And then we come to illumination, which can be corresponding to Sagittarius, seeing beyond the veil of the mind, seeing as clearly as when disincarnate. So we have a veil drawn across our perception when we incarnate and we drink of the waters of Lethe. We forget who we are and we spend each life remembering who we are and going back to the source. Ideally, of course. So Sagittarius is a sign of inspiration and of the visionary, and hence the illumination that comes from that process. So to see as clearly as when disincarnate is an amazing statement, really. All right, so visualization is the key to Mahayana or Vajrayana Buddhist meditation. It focuses the mind to a point and peripheral influences fall away. It gives us the power to create, to actively use the imagination, and the imagination leads to intuition. It evokes the abstract and hence the creative arts. What cannot be imagined does not exist. So this is the key to endless creativity. We have to concentrate, however, to visualize, and this is the 5th stage of concentration that we went through. And this is directed creative visualization. We get random images that come from the lower mind. We have different responses to meditation. This is all part of the mind stuff, the distractions of the lower mind. Physical distractions become internal distractions. We might be uncomfortable. We might be sitting cross-legged and really want to stretch the leg out because it's gone to sleep. We have to be determined not to be distracted, continually pull the mind back, train the mind to be totally absorbed in the object of concentration. And of course, seating for meditation doesn't necessarily mean that you tie yourself up in knots trying to do the full lotus or half lotus sitting on a cushion. DK does say to us that the Western bodies are not really suited to that, even though many Westerners can do it, of course. And that it's just simply sufficient to sit straight in a chair with your spine straight and comfortable, your breathing not labored or forced. So meditation is constant awareness of what we're doing in meditation, constantly noting when we waver, to be vigilant and catch ourselves out once we stray from the target, so to speak. Constantly bringing the mind back, holding the mind steady in the light, and don't be discouraged. You're not alone. Everyone goes through the same process. Triggers for visualization are visual images, sound or music, of course. We like to play the eternal Om before the meditation and other types of music. But of course, these are just steps upon the way. Ideally, one should be able to just sit for meditation without any of those kind of crutches. But certainly in the early stages, it doesn't hurt. I don't find playing music throughout an entire meditation particularly useful, personally, myself. Others might. I do find sounds like the drone, the Indian drone, quite good. You can get whole audios of the drone online. Harold Moses, a co-worker friend of mine, is you can find his work online on YouTube probably. Down here, of course, we have the Ajna chakra depicted, the 2 major petals on either side. So sitting for meditation, which I've already gone into a bit. Posture, spine erect, seated in a chair, lean against a wall. Energies free to flow. Whole body and mind poised for meditation. Head erect, not slumped in any ways. Eyes closed, shuts out distractions. Hands held loosely in the lap, relaxed. DK does say to have the eyes just kind of slightly open so you can just kind of see a blurry sort of light through there. That's an interesting one to practice. I doubt, though, whether many people do that. Breathing, yogic pranayama, is unnecessary, although 2 minutes maximum doesn't hurt. It energizes the etheric body, and of course the etheric body is the messenger between the soul and the other personality vehicles. Don't get fanatical with meditation. Moderation is the key, the middle way. 15 to 30 minutes, morning and evening. Quality, not quantity. Select one spot, not your bed. One spot in the house that accumulates the magnetism. Don't mix up the sleeping space with the meditation space. It's best to keep them separate. You may find if you meditate in your bed, for instance, that it upsets your sleep cycle. It's over too much energy in that space. So find a place in the house where you meditate every day in a chair or in a little room. You might have a little ritual altar in front of you with candle, incense, a few objects, a picture of the master or something like that. That's all good to have as a permanent fixture that you can add to or take away from. The whole point is to help you focus and for you to step into that space that will make it easier for you to connect with your higher self. Incense is certainly a powerful one. Also things like a singing bowl like this one. That I ring in meditation. And also things like Tibetan symbols. But the key is to keep it all simple, essentially. Don't get caught up in too much paraphernalia. Have patience. It takes time for the vehicles to adapt. This is a very important point. Patience and persistence, those P words. Patience and persistence pay off. Body has to get used, or the vehicles of the all three bodies have to get used to more subtle energies. You are invoking much stronger energies into your energy equipment. So there's going to be a clash. There's going to be a conflict that has to be balanced. And, as I said before, you can overstimulate yourself and it can bring up things, emotions that have been buried for years and so forth. Steady, and take one thing at a time as if any of these things come up to deal with and resolve and to balance and so forth. Learn to recognize cycles and patterns. And of course, knowing your astrology chart doesn't hurt. To know you've got, for instance, transiting Saturn's squaring your Pluto or conjunct your moon. There are various cycles where it may be more difficult to meditate than others. So it all depends on each individual how aware they are of those particular cycles in their life. So learn to recognize cycles and patterns. Keep a diary, meditation, dream diary, all in the one diary. Is always a good thing to do, especially for beginners, because quite often you might get images and downloads, if you like, in the meditation that you don't understand. Then 6 months later you go, oh, yeah, I think I know what that means. You go back to the dream diary, you reread the meditation impression, or the dream, of course, and you realize what it is, what it means. And the dream consciousness is connected to the meditation work. So what you might receive in meditation or receive within your aura, you may not be conscious of during the meditation, but it may come to that night in a dream. It's a guiding dream from your higher self. Sabrina says, did DK recommend meditation for children or to wait until they are older for that kind of mind training? I cannot remember, but I do believe that this is an interesting question because you see a lot of pictures of kids meditating from tiny tots of 3 years old or 5 or 6 or 7. I personally don't think it's necessarily a good thing I think let them be kids first. If they spontaneously want to meditate, they might be little Buddhas, then so be it. But I'm not quite sure about that. Um, you know, sometimes parents can impose their ideals upon their children of something that they think is good, but which may not necessarily be good for the kids. But on the other hand, of course, there's an argument for letting them do that. So I don't really know what the answer is to that. I err on the side of not allowing kids to meditate, actually. And here's the quote I was talking about before. It might be generally laid down that an upright position in a comfortable chair with the spine erect, the feet crossed naturally, the hands folded in the lap, the eyes closed, and the chin a little dropped is the best posture for the Occidental or Western aspirant. You can see this Japanese, I think he's Japanese or Vietnamese monk. He's sitting on the edge of his chair. That may not be so comfortable. I would be sitting right in the back of the chair with my spine against the back of the chair. In the East, DK says there is a science of postures and about 84 different positions, some of them most intricate and painful and listed. This science is a branch of Hatha Yoga and is not to be followed by the fifth root race. It is a remnant of that yoga which was necessary and sufficient for the Lemurian root race man who needed to learn physical control. Bhakti Yoga, or the yoga of the devotee, was the yoga of the Atlantean or fourth root race man, plus a little Hatha Yoga. In this fifth root race, the Aryan, Hatha Yoga should fall into disusitude altogether where the disciple is concerned. Note he qualifies that remark, where the disciple is concerned. Not everyone is a disciple. And he should occupy himself with Raja Yoga plus Bhakti Yoga. He should be a mental devotee. Interesting statements. Of course, we see a huge revolution in Hatha Yoga in the last 20, 30, 40 years, which is a great thing, I think. And it relates to a lot of people who are going through the first initiation. And it doesn't hurt to practice a little bit of it, I think, personally, even at later stages of the path. But when a person reverses the wheel and takes the first initiation, they've contacted the soul or the Christ consciousness. They're bringing that down into the aura, particularly into the etheric body. And that is creating a much higher frequency than the physical body status quo. So the embarkation upon a vegetarian diet, right exercise, hygiene, health, healing, and so forth is brought about, and the person brings about a balance between the etheric and the physical bodies through those practices, through exercise, through going to the gym, yoga, Tai Chi, and all the other Aikido. They're all wonderful practices. I still do a bit of Tai Chi now and again. I should do it more than just occasionally, but it depends what you do. If you spend long hours at the computer, it's important to do a lot of stretching and to keep the circulation going and the etheric forces flowing freely. Claudia says, I used to teach children's to kids between ages 6 to 12. I think you mean children's yoga. The feedback from the parents was that they were much more calm and able to focus better. I had one boy that was 8 and very angry due to parents' divorce. His mum said meditation helped a lot. Yeah, well, there you go. I think that's a brilliant example of how it can help. Better than giving them some pharmaceutical drug, what is it, Ritalin or something like that to settle them down. Better to use a natural method. And let's face it, kids are the most vulnerable at the moment with the distraction of technology and the way it's being abused and misused as well. So in this case, I think Excellent. I think the 6 to 12 age group is especially after the age of 7, because it's between the ages of 4 and 7 that the etheric body is anchored in the growing child. And then in the next 7-year cycle, the astral body is anchored by the age of puberty at 14, and so on. 7-year cycle after that, the mental body, when the person is going to an institute of higher education and anchoring the mental body. Then at 28, the Saturn return, 28 to 30, all those 3 vehicles are synthesized and aligned into the mature adult personality, so that by the age of 35, in the next 7-year cycle, the soul can take hold of its relatively well integrated instrument. That's the general thinking on that. DK does say that at the age of 35, the soul starts to kick in very strongly, and I find that applies to a lot of people that a lot of clients at least, that I've done astrological readings for. Heidi says, I would underline the diary. It is so important. Yes, I totally agree, Heidi, because when you start to write, which is a creative process in itself, you start to remember things that you hadn't remembered when you first started writing. So all that comes back. Parts of the dream that you hadn't initially remembered come back to you, and it's something that you can read and reread and reflect upon and contemplate upon. That's a meditation in itself, until the images or the symbolism of the dream or the meditation image becomes clearer to you. And as I said, those 2 cycles of conscious meditation in your waking state and the dream state in your non-waking state are linked for sure. When we get into the dream class, we'll explore the 10 different types of dreams. Key that I say to people, I meet all sorts of different people in my travels and everyday life. And if we get into the conversation of meditation, I just ask them to just sit for 5 minutes and watch yourself. Just be the observer, and just see in what state your mind is in. Is it continually racing? Is it distracted? Is it here, there, and everywhere? Is it all over the place? Does it need reining in, or is it calm and steady? All those kind of things. And usually for a lot of people, it's the former. It's there's so much going on. This is the basic state of average humanity. And it's a state of what we call kama manas, or desire mind. It's part astral and part mental. Diane says, how would you recommend that we follow all the stages of meditation? I'm afraid I'll overlook some of them. Well, you can go back to this video, Diane, and pause the screens and take notes if you need to, or copy and paste them into your own files. That's one way. Or go to the original sources of the books. I'm not quite sure exactly what blue books I took them from. I may have taken them from other sources as well, some of this material, and just my own experiences, of course. Yeah, just sitting and noting where you are in your consciousness is the key. That should inspire you to bring more discipline in through just the constant practice of sitting every day. Okay, I think then if there's no other comments or questions, we'll wrap it up for today. Don't forget to meditate.